The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Harborough again, everybody, and to the smallest village I'll be doing this week. It's so small, it's all on one street virtually. There's a few offshoots, but the main part of this village is on one road. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm making my way from one end of the village to the other so that I can just walk straight back down and show you everything that's within it. I'll tell you what, there's some brilliant views in this place. Here's what I can see at this point right here. Check this out. How about that for lovely Leicestershire countryside? Fabulous. We'll be seeing plenty of this as we explore the parish of Frolesworth. Frolesworth, Freophil's enclosure. Today on TVI we come to the village of Frolesworth, a small settlement located mainly on one road running between Leicester and Sharmford. Roughly equidistant from both Hinckley and Lutterworth, Frolesworth's location is one of rural tranquility, situated as it is right in the middle of some lush farmland. The majority of the current buildings in Frolesworth are aligned with or set back from the single main street, although it does have a small number of outlying farms, homes and businesses. In total, there are somewhere between 80 and 120 dwellings here. Its boundary hasn't altered much in the past 200 years, with virtually all of the 20th century properties being infill sites instead of whacking great housing estates. The Leicestershire round footpath passes through Frolesworth, so often it gets visited by walkers. Adding to that, several additional rights of way lead through some of the local fields, including one that runs to and around an artificial lake in the fields of Manor Farm. From pretty much anywhere out to the west of the place, you're guaranteed a great view of the rolling Leicestershire hills. There can be no denying who the most celebrated former resident of the village is, John Smith. He was a distinguished judge and later Lord Chief Baron of the Exchequer in Scotland. Born in this parish in 1657, some of Frolesworth's landmarks are related to him, most notably the Almshouses near a crossroads. Originally just 4 of them, there are now 16, and they're all governed by Baron Smith's charity. Not far from them is Kingsmead Marquees, a company with their own little tale. Let's check it all out, folks. As usual, let's start by having a look at Frolesworth on the 1900 map. This is a simple little village in terms of its layout. It basically occupies just the one main street. That said, there are a couple of offshoots, most notably at the southeastern corner, where a road runs south to Ulsthorpe and another northwards to Broughton Astley. That's known around here as the Crossroads, albeit a staggered one because the streets don't quite match up. A lot of Frolesworth's best landmarks used to be around that junction. Further west, the road snakes its way up towards Sharmford via some open countryside, passing the church and the site of one of its former pubs on the way. There's also a big lake out there too, although it's not marked on this map. Let's zoom in and have a closer look at it. So essentially we're going to walk through Frolesworth from west to east, starting at Frolesworth Manor Lake, not marked on this map. Then we'll head to the Royal Oak pub. This western end of the village also features the Church of St Nicholas and the old post office, as well as the pub, which by the way is no longer trading. Let's walk it. Frolesworth Manor Lake doesn't appear on that map because it was artificially created a long time after that was produced. The lake is basically a fishery, but it also attracts wildlife. It's not uncommon to see birdwatchers around it, especially in the summertime. It's like a magnet for such people. The good thing about it is that Frolesworth Manor Lake is accessible to the general public, thanks to the network of public footpaths that cross some of this farmland. One of them was purpose-built to circumnavigate the lake, and that provides the locals with a brilliant little spot to walk their dogs, or just to get out and exercise themselves for a little while. Into the village itself now. Here we have the former Royal Oak pub, although some of the locals simply know it as the Oak. Now it's nothing more than just number 32 because it stopped pulling pints a long time ago and became a private residence. Mind you, the Oak can still lay claim to a bit of local notoriety. It's reputedly the oldest house in the village, dating back to 1550. Okay, next up it's the church, which is hiding away behind the phone box you can see over my right shoulder there. Just before we go to the church, I want to make a mention of something you saw in that last section, which I didn't know anything about until I actually arrived in Frolesworth this morning. As I was coming away from the lake and through that farmyard, you'll have noticed a big building. That is something called Woodfield School. It's a special educational needs school, which isn't marked on the map, strangely. Bit weird, isn't it? But there we go, that's what that was. So let's go for the church then, which is over there. Defining the centre of the village, or at least the centre of the main road through it, is the Church of St Nicholas. This sits on the highest ground anywhere in Frolesworth. The tower is a local landmark when approaching the village both during the day and at night, when latterly the church is lit with amber lights. This one consists of a tower, both north and south aisles, a chancel, a nave, a vestry and a porch. The earliest parts date to the 13th century. However, the tower was rebuilt in 1762 and a further Victorian restoration took place in 1887 and 88 by the architect W. Bassett Smith. One part of this that's altered considerably since it was built is that porch. It was originally made entirely of wood with a thatched roof and is now partly brick with a lead roof instead. Inside this church you can find the Staresmore tombs. There are two, one either side of the altar. One belongs to Francis Staresmore, whilst the other belongs to his wife. Staresmore was an MP for Leicestershire, albeit only briefly. He was elected to the Commons in 1626, but he died later that year. His memorial in this church was erected by his widow in 1631 and shows him in armour with his feet against a shield of arms with effigies of his 8 children, 3 girls and 5 boys. His wife died in 1657 and now lies in her own tomb. Here's something rather interesting too. His wife was also a Francis. It was spelt with an E, the standard female version of the name. The other memorial of note in this church is the one to John Smith. We'll talk more about him though as we approach the eastern end of the village. Back out onto the road, next we pass the old post office. Frolesworth has long since lost its once vital amenities, such as this. It used to have a shop too at one time. Nowadays, the average Frolesworthian has to travel to get to their nearest shop or post office. Luckily, it's only a couple of miles away from Broughton Astley, which has both. There's a very eclectic mix in this village, housing styles wise, because you have houses like Rosedale House, this one here, 2.5 stories tall, and probably I would say 17th, potentially 18th century, could even be early 19th actually. And then you have houses like the bungalow, which is dead opposite. I'll just get across the road and I'll show you, which is definitely mid-20th, isn't it? So as you walk through this village, you're not subjected to the same thing the whole way down. There are some nice mixed properties in Frolesworth. Now there's one property, as far as I'm concerned, that stands out more than most as you drive or walk through this place, and you can find it on a bend just up here. It's called Frolesworth House. By some margin, the eastern end of Frolesworth around the crossroads has far more than the west. Most of the village's amenities and services used to be grouped around them. Now, a lot of them have gone, like this school for example. However, a few do still remain. You can see some almshouses on this junction. They are very much still in use. There are also some pretty big properties at this end of the village. This one is probably the one most regular drivers through the place will recognise most. This is Frolesworth House. Like a tall white beacon, this 8-foot behemoth of a house is early 19th century and is Grade 2 listed. It sticks out like a sore thumb against a backdrop of much lower surroundings. According to some, this is also known as Home Farm. This 250-year-old building has been painstakingly restored in places to incorporate modern conveniences. It still retains a lot of its historic features though. These two houses stand on the site of the former Plough and Harrow pub. At first, the inn was simply known as the Plough before later changing its name. Close to its site there was a butcher's shop which had an abattoir at the rear. The pub was demolished in 2002, but its name lives on thanks to Harrow House, one of these two new builds. Around the back of these houses there once stood that small school which we've just seen on the map. Not a lot is known about it, but it became a public elementary. Built in 1870, it was originally a Church of England weekday school. It was enlarged in 1907 to accommodate up to 72 children. It was attended by children between the ages of 5 and 11. It was sold off in 1958 after it closed, and now there's no trace of it because its site has been built over. Yeah, definitely no trace of the old school now. I even had a little look up that little drive just to see if I could see any remains of it, but it's definitely gone. Anyway, standing here at this corner, the school is probably the last thing on your mind because you can see quite a few other things. Over there, you can see a block of buildings which are very important to Frolesworth. We'll discover what they are in a moment. But also on this corner, you can see this building. Now this has got a little story to tell all of its own. On the other side of the crossroads we have a business called Kingsmead Marquees. A small family business, this was founded in 1962 by John Breward and his father Horace. From humble beginnings, Kingsmead Marquees has now grown into a fourth-generation leader in the event industry. John Breward originally sold wholesale knitwear at markets and showgrounds across Shropshire, regularly hiring Marquees from a local supplier to set up his stall. They were often poor quality and often mould-ridden Marquees, and so his son Andrew decided to take matters into his own hands, literally. Andrew taught himself to sew, purchased a roll of canvas and a second-hand Singer sewing machine. The result was his very first marquee, stitched all by himself. This was in his bedroom at his parents' bungalow in Barwell, just up the road near Hinckley. The bungalow was called Kingsmead, and thus the name of the business was born. When Andrew used it at shows, other stall owners took notice. Impressed by its superior quality, they began asking for their own. That's where Frolesworth comes in. Kingsmead needed a premises to make the marquees in, and this building was available. It used to be Harrison's Seed Merchants. Now we come to the corner of the Ulsthorpe Road where there's a group of buildings laid out in a square. These are Baron Smith's almshouses. These cottage-style dwellings were built in 1725. Originally, there were just 4 of them, but in 1761, 5 more were added at right angles to the left and the right of the original row. More were added in 1796 and 1834. There are now 16 cottages in all, one of which is lived in by the warden. They were founded by John Smith, once the Lord Chief Baron of the Exchequer in Scotland. He was born in Frolesworth in 1657. The almshouses are governed by the trustees of Baron Smith's charity. John Smith was the son of Roger Smith of Frolesworth and matriculated at Lincoln College, Oxford on the 12th of September 1676 at the age of 19. He was primarily a barrister thereafter and was appointed a Justice of the Court of Common Pleas in Ireland on Christmas Eve in 1700. He was transferred to be a Baron of the Court of the Exchequer in England in 1702, before in May 1708 being selected to settle the Court of the Exchequer in Scotland after the union with England. For that purpose, he was made Lord Chief Baron of the Exchequer in Scotland, although he kept his place in the English court, receiving an additional £500 a year on his salary. Although he performed none of the English duties, he enjoyed both his English and his Scottish offices until his death in 1726 at the age of 69. Smith was a benefactor of his native Frolesworth. By his will, he founded and endowed a hospital for 14 poor widows. In other words, the original row of almshouses. All in all, John Smith seems to have been a very good man, doesn't he? He's got nothing to do with beer though, I'm afraid, people. If you're a John Smith's fan, Frolesworth is not the place to come, unfortunately. Okay, we have one landmark left here in this village, and it's to do with the almshouses, actually. On the corner of the almshouses, you can see the village hall. Forming part of the almshouse complex is Frolesworth Village Hall. The hall was formerly the reading room for the residents of the square, and to this day it's still leased from Smith's charity. It was constructed of brick with a slate roof in the 1920s and is pretty easy to find, being the last building on the Ulsthorpe Road. The hall is rectangular with a kitchen extension at the southwestern corner and a toilet block extension to the east. There's also a small car park. So that's Frolesworth, everybody, and that leaves us with two more to cover in Harborough this week. Tomorrow we'll be in the first of a pair of twins, which I'm going to walk together. Both are well known in these parts for their woodcutting industry. See you there, people. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.